You want to fight crime? Let's get dangerous.
And yes, it is. It is that time on a Saturday where we get together and talk about what we love here. And welcome into another episode of From the Desk of Small Press Publisher. I'm your host, Joe D. McPhee here, and I got to explain tonight's topic in a few moments here. But nevertheless, we still got to do our due diligence here. So before we get into the festivities for the evening, we still got to do the whole thing about Stupid O'Clock, which is currently running right now. I haven't updated the title card for that as of yet. It is on. If you are into their show, you can still catch it. It is actually running right now. That is no longer followed up by Last Man Standing. I don't think that show is going to come back because the main person who runs the show for Last Man Standing is the main person who's running Stupid O'Clock now. So it is one of those things that had happened here. But nevertheless, never mind the furthermore, still on and live and kicking. Start on Mondays at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I believe he's now on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays now. And let us not forget about Comic Book Spectrum this upcoming Thursday here. We should have a lane back to on this upcoming Thursday. However, the show with me and Cliff was very, very fun. We talked about a lot of different comic book stuff and a lot of things that has been coming down the pike, especially coming with DC Comics and everything to that magnitude here. So, like I said before, it is going to probably be a very short show, depending on you guys here, depending on the conversations and everything to that magnitude here. Normally, I'll be up and happy and giddy because this would be the most people's favorite time of the show here. Because why? It is normally that time to do new comic book pickups for the week here. However, we can't do it this week. There is none. Yeah, mail has been as of such here with all the rain and everything. That stuff that was supposed to come in did not come in, and mail has been rather sparse, if I could say it in that aspect here. But nevertheless, there's stuff that's still coming in. We just have to wait a little bit longer here. I don't really go out to comic book shops like I used to on a consistent basis. So that's another reason why. But most of the stuff that I'm getting by mail hasn't shown up. So that's one of the reasons why there's not a new comic book pickups for the week. However, when it comes to the collection update, like I said, we were finishing up on a couple other collections here. Like I said, I just finished up with the New Mutants. We're getting close to finishing Outsiders Volume 3, and we're still working on the main stuff here. Like, for example, the hard to find stuff here for Film Force. That title card is accurate now. Same thing for Ghost here. That is pretty much accurate. But these are getting to be harder to find lists now, because for some reason it seems like most independent stuff is just getting harder and harder to find nowadays here. And the Spirit update has changed a little bit here. I'm still waiting for stuff to come via the mail There's going to be more of the kitchen sink run, the longer kitchen sink run that is coming in the mail. There's a whole bunch of issues of Spirit is coming through and waiting here. Nothing as far as the Uncanny X-Men here, as far as the newer issues are concerned here. We got more Wonder Woman books here, but we haven't moved the needle as far as the ones that are missing. I've been getting a lot of upgrades to issues that I already have from volume 1 here. You guys will get to see it a little bit later here as they come in through the mail. And then the Uncanny X-Men, there has been some changes there, but I don't think the numbers have changed, especially when it comes to volume 6 here. So on that note here, that's pretty much where we're at on the collection standpoint here. And on the production standpoint, which we get to right now, which is part of tonight's topic here about nothing changed, nothing new, nothing changed. It just seems like the more I take time to like raise my head to see what's really going on out there in the world as far as the industry is concerned, the more I see things not really changing. There's nothing really truly new, but nothing is really has not changed. I mean, the same arguments are going on, the same people complaining about the same type of stuff, and it's just like it worries me at this point here. But let's not focus on that point as of yet here. Let's get to the stuff that you guys need to keep me on the up and up on, which is the production side of things here. So without further ado, let me go ahead and show you guys that we finally got these 2 chapters already lettered and ready to go here. So I'm going through these things here. If my mouse would keep up with me here. I guess my mouse is not going to allow me to show you all the different pages here because it is lagging behind. But nevertheless, we got 2 sets of 8-page chapters here. And for some reason, it's showing the screen, but it's not allowing me to move between images. Yeah, it's not allowing me to move anything on that screen here, which is okay. Let me see if I could do. Yeah, the mouse is it just for some reason. It's not allowing me to do things on this screen here. So again, where I wanted to show you guys what is going on production wise, we got another hiccup and hang up here. I don't want to close this thing down and bring it back up here, but let's do this here. We're going to try this again. Bear with me for 1 second. Okay, so this might fix everything here. I don't know. Some programs do what they want to do here, but now that we are back in, and let me go ahead and make that big again. Yes, now we get to see it. So now we're on the second page of the chapters here. So this is what has been lettered, 16 total pages altogether here. 2 complete chapters. That's the end of that 1 chapter, the first 8 pages there. And then we're continuing on to the second chapter there. And like I said, this is all being done for accountability purposes here, because like I said, my job to you is to make certain that we get our stories told and get them out there and ready to go for you guys here. Now, we're not doing monthly publications as of yet here, but we do try to get these things up and running and going and ready to get to print when we need to get them to print here. So as of right now, I still need to work on Primetime Saturday Night number 6. I still got to finish up Amazonian number 8. We're almost at the point where we could do Legends of the Giants and Slayer issues 4 and 5. And the reason why Legend of the Giants and Slayer is going faster than the other two books is because Legends of the Giants and Slayer is broken up to multiple different stories. So it's easier for some reason to do like the 8-page chapters or the 6-page chapters a lot quicker and get those up and going and package them into an issue than the 50-page plus issues like we have with Primetime Saturday Night or the hand-drawn stuff for Amazonia here. So that's pretty much what's going on as a whole production wise here. But that gets into the whole thing about nothing new, nothing has changed here. The reason why the topic is that is because technically, like I said, when I lift my head up and check the landscape here, I mean, I still see the same type of things here. It's like people still complaining about representation, people still complaining about distribution and, you know, using Kickstarter and all this other stuff. And it just, it's not annoying, but it's just more along the lines like sometimes you just got to sit back and really think about your plan or your game plan for the bigger picture, for the longer haul here. I just don't think about what we do here at CGC Studios one issue at a time. I think about it in bigger chunks here. I think about it as like, where are we going in the next 2 years or the next 5 years? What is the goal to have for those type of avenues here? Like for one, actual physical print distribution. I'm still on that goal here. None of our titles we're not going to try to get bigger distribution for our titles through like a bigger distributor like Lunar or some place like that until we have at least 13 to 14 issues of that title, or at least 1 year. And 1 year is usually it's 12 issues because we're trying to go monthly. So reason why we say 13, 14 is that it's 1 year plus an issue. At this rate, we're almost there with Amazonia. We're almost there with Primetime Saturday Night being at 6. Legends of the Giants and Slayer is going along pretty well so far, but you have to also be mindful. I have a 9-to-5 job. I also have family and stuff that I got to take care of. It's not that easy trying to get all this stuff crammed into like 1 year. You have to expand it out over several years here, and it is good to have these issues already in-house, done, ready, and ready to go to print here. And to be quite honest here, I have neglected to mention about the one project, which is the role-playing game for Primetime Saturday Night. I still have to finish up all the finishers, the list of finishers for all of the characters that have been mentioned in that particular in that actual role-playing game. So it's a lot of stuff that's going on as a whole here that you have to think about. But yet, when I think about the bigger landscape and looking at how people are up here talking about, well, how I'm supposed to get, you know, more people to look at what I do on Kickstarter. And I come back sometimes, it's like, you know what? Kickstarter might be good for you, but it's not good for me. And I don't knock people for using crowdfunding. But I come back now after knowing people who have been doing crowdfunding for years. And I've seen some of the type of struggles that they have. And I come back and I sit back and I think to myself here, maybe part of the struggle with crowdfunding, it's not crowdfunding itself, it's the platform that you're on. And what do I mean by the platform that you're on? When you truly think about it, the platform that you're on may not be getting your work to the people who actually read your books or enjoy your stories or enjoy your artwork. You know, how do we know that if for some reason, let's say if Kickstarter went away, how do you truly know that those people who followed you on Kickstarter and bought your stuff on Kickstarter is going to come over to your website, to your company website, or whatever other distribution method that you have currently as of right now to continue to get your wares? You don't. You really don't. So that's kind of the rub in one way or the other. And maybe some people are not looking at that picture as a whole here. What are you doing to move them from that platform to your platform and make them a fan of you? And that's the one question that when I pose it to a lot of other creators, they get that blank stare, the deer in the headlights, and then they look at me like, it's like, well, what else I want to do? I was like, I need the money to make the books. It's like, well, let's look at it this way. Platforms like Kickstarter is there usually to crowdfund your initial project. It is not truly set up for people who doing ongoing series per se. It is set up for people to get that first big initial project up and going, and you're supposed to work your ass off to raise the funds for you could get that project done and move on to the next one without in some cases not coming back to that platform. Now there's a lot of people who do it for ongoing series and it's worked for them, but I don't think the original intent of Kickstarter was that. Not for ongoing series here. Now, mind you, if you look at every issue as its own project, it works. However, when you truly look at ongoing comic book series here, are you really gaining new eyeballs to your IP each and every time that you're going onto that platform? Or are you just maintaining what you have? Meaning, are there new people coming in? Are you actually having new people partaking of your stories here? Now, the mind of thought for that type of aspect here is like, well, you have to go out there, you have to beat your drum and get people, hyped up and enthused that your next project is coming out and get them to the Kickstarter or whatever crowdfunding platform there it is. But in the longer run, it's like, wouldn't you just want them to follow you? And then when it's ready, you tell us like, hey, it's ready on Kickstarter, go out to Kickstarter. If you want it back there, that's perfectly fine. Or you could wait a couple of months and it'd be on our website. And you could get it there. That way you don't have to be so beholden to, well, I need the money to make the issue first. And maybe that's part of the business plan. It's like they need the crowdfunding to get the finalized money to make certain that the artist gets paid and all these other people get paid to make sure that the issue gets done. You never know. Like I said, I don't know other people's business plans. I just know how I do the comics that we do here at CGC Studios and the stories that I make and what I go through to make certain that those stories are done. And a lot of times I come out of my own pocket for a lot of this type of stuff. And, I work with a lot of other great creators in that aspect here. But in the same time, I'm not out there constantly advertising and beating people upside the head and be like, buy my work, buy my work, buy my work. Even on this show, it's very rare that I take the time to say, here, buy the next, buy Amazonia or stuff like that. I talk about, hey, what's going on with, but matter of fact, I was looking forward to watching Lanterns today, and it's not out there on HBO Max as of yet. So that was time kind of like wasting and everything. So I came right back and finished up the lettering. But getting back on topic, it's just more along the lines. I still came back and did the lettering, did actual work on my books, but I don't go out there, and say, hey guys, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. It's like, it's more along the lines like, this is what I'm writing. This is the type of stories that I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. And I show you guys, just like how I showed you those 2 chapters, the pages in there. If there's something that's in those graphics that caught your eyes, like, yes, come that's a part of Legends of the Giant Slayer. I could talk to you in depth about that here, but that's not the purpose of this show here. The purpose of this show is just to talk about the industry, talk about what people like myself go through to make the books and to talk about what we love, the other titles and stuff that we read, and all the geek culture stuff that we might love here. That was the nature of it. That's also plays a part of how well we sell here. But my major goal when I go to comic book shows is we got to sell these books. That's when I put on the heavy sales pitch and everything to that magnitude, because 9 times out of 10, when you go to a comic book show, people are going to look for comics. That's where I hit them with the sales pitch. But everywhere I go, not every post that I make on social media is going to be about Amazonia or Primetime Saturday Night or AWF or all this other stuff that I could be talking about. A lot of times up here, it's like, if you follow me on Facebook, it's like the last couple of posts that I made on Facebook was dealing with I forgot the name of the lawyer, but this one lawyer was pretty much putting people on business about what all these major motion picture studios are doing and licensing rights and IP rights. And I'm up here, it's like, hey, those who are in the back row, listen up, because this one lawyer is telling you the truth about how things actually operate. Those are the types of things that I normally post here. I'm not out here advertising like that. So it kind of makes me wonder, where I hear all these other creators talking about, advertising and all this other stuff and all the trauma and turmoil it is to get funding and get backing. I'm up here more along the lines like, hey guys, I'm up here working on, pages 6 through 12, and leave it at that. And I might show you pages 6 through 12 in that process. But after that, we're going to be talking about what's going on with X-Men 97. We want to talk about the next movie that's coming out. To me, that goes a lot further than anything else here. But I also know that crowdfunding is not for me, because I don't have the 30 days in me to constantly be like, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. Especially after seeing that most of our sales come from people who go to comic book conventions, people who actually follow the series. I rely more on you guys to use the, word of mouth to get the word out that, hey, this is a great series. I like this. I'd rather for people to come out here and say, I like this. I like how he handles this. And I like the way that he answers the question. If you have a question, come to his Saturday show from the Deso Small Press Publisher. Ask him. He's open enough that he's willing to answer those questions. There's no need for me to be like, every time I turn around, it's like, oh, this is going on, and I'm not be able to do this, and I'm not able to sell that, and the distribution is too low, and the sales are too low for this. It's like, nah. You gotta have a better plan. You gotta plan it out. Gotta work that plan, the longer range plan here. And like I told the person from Lockdown Games, I finally got the ISBN number. We just got to put the final touches on the last couple of chapters of that role-playing book and find a printer. It's going to be costly to do the self-printing. Am I willing to do crowdfunding for this role-playing game? Probably. But first thing first, I got to do my due diligence and look at the cost, and look at the final cost and everything, look at what I need to do, look at what it could cost to get a proof before we send anything for mass production. It's a lot of stuff that goes behind the scenes that people don't realize. And I'm not going to go out there and be like, give me money on any type of platform without doing my homework first and without putting my own skin in the game. It's one thing to do the work to make the stuff and get it up there and have it looking professional and everything. But it's a difference when you're willing to put your own hard-earned dollar into it. You treat it differently. You understand what it takes to make it work. And I think sometimes people take that for granted. When I look at a lot of these crowdfunding campaigns here, I'm seeing, people are up here like, well, I need $8,000, $9,000, $10,000. It's like, well, how much of that $8, $9, $10,000 need that you have that you already put in. It would be, I have more of, you'll pull my heartstrings a little bit tighter to give you money if I find out it's like, hey, I put $25,000 into this and I need $10,000 more to do this. I could be like, oh, you put skin in the game. I can see what you're doing. I understand. I get it. You kind of pull my heartstrings, like especially if it's a topic that I like or a story that I kind of like, I'm there. But when I see, it's like, well, I got this person, that person, and that person, and none of them will have been paid. And, we need to get this, that, and the other done. Or I barely had enough money to get the first 5 pages drawn. I was like, yeah, I'm going to kind of back away from that project because that tells me that you're not ready. I rather back projects that are somewhere between 80% to all the way done than something that's like, I got a concept. I have seen too many good projects fall by the wayside just because people did not put skin in the game. I then also see too many people try to advertise talking about diversity and all this other stuff too. And I just up here like, sometimes we got to let personal feelings go. And the reason why I say let personal feelings go, do we need representation in comics? Yes. Do we need it from the big 3? Not necessarily. Reason why I say not necessarily is because there's a lot of us independent publishers out there, whether it be self-publishing or smaller press, that are out there putting out stories that is from different nationalities, different ethnicities, different genders, and everything on a daily basis. The real problem is exposure. Sometimes saying the word diversity scares off people because they have the preconceived notion of what diversity is. Diversity is not necessarily a change of race. It's not necessarily a change of ethnicity. It's not really about change of gender. It's just something that is different, something that is just not commonplace. And so many people are so afraid of things that are so commonplace in stories that if the main character does not look like them, they either A, get scared off by it, or B, have to have some form of acceptance to it because that is the nature of things here. And you got to put that part of your own personal bias aside and look at the story for what it is. And I've said this several times before. I've many people who complained about Miles Morales. Miles Morales was, kind of like the modern generation version of Peter Parker. We were able to relate to Peter Parker, and now you're seeing more and more people being able to relate to Miles Morales. Doesn't matter about skin color, religion, or anything to that magnitude. When a character is written well and you could relate to it, it speaks volumes. So when people climb onto that bandwagon about diversity, it is what it is here. And there's my buddy Green Lantern here, who is one of the colorists here at his CGC Studios. Like, no, I don't want different. I want the same old over and over and over again. And that's kind of a problem. But also in the same aspect here, in doing that over and over and over again, they don't realize that they kind of playing into that whole diversity role in a whole different light. Marvel and DC have to maintain the IPs as they were created. They're not going to change Batman to be a certain way to please the masses. However, those same people that are working on Batman could go to a different company and create something that you love that is diversified. And what bothers me is that why is there so much of a need for the bigger companies to do something when the smaller ones are doing it for you and you're not giving them any shine? Part of that is on those creators for not saying, hey, look at me over here. But the other part is the readership. And I don't put it 100% on the readership. The readership only knows what they like. And how do you know that you don't like something? You have to try it first. So if you're not trying anything new that's coming out by the smaller people, you don't know. And then if you're going to put it all on the backs of like the big three ain't looking at, buying up new IPs. They got their hands tied up in a bunch for the IPs that they still have, that they're still trying to keep control over. Especially if you're talking about DC. DC really don't own a whole bunch of characters like people think that they do. It is what it is, but it's just flabbergasting when you look at the bigger picture and you see it from both sides. It's like, yeah, sometimes the creators are at fault, and then the other times, sometimes the readership is at fault, but nobody sees the other person's view. Sometimes the readers don't see the creator's view, and the creators don't see the reader's view. And what I find more interesting is that sometimes the creators don't see the reader's point of view a lot more than the other way around here. It's like, ew, new. I don't want no new. Yep. Sometimes it's just that way. But like I said, it's like dealing with, like, I hate saying it this way. It's like dealing with like the little bitty kid mentality. How do you know that you don't like Brussels sprouts until you eat it? You could look at it and be like, ew, I don't like how it looks. I don't like how it smells. I don't like how it rolls on the plate. But after you actually eat a bite, you'd be like, that's not bad. I might not like how it looks. I might not like how it looks, how it smells. But after you really ingest it and take it for what it is, you'd be like, I might not like its packaging, but it's still good. I mean, it's the same thing. It's like, I don't like chocolate. I only want vanilla. How do you know you don't like chocolate until you have it? How do you know that you don't like butterscotch until you have it? Sometimes there is just, you got to throw things to the whim. And you got people out there that say, I ain't afraid of nothing. Oh, yeah, you're not afraid of nothing? Okay, put something new in front of them. I don't know about that. What do you mean you don't know about it? You say you ain't scared of nothing. Try it. There's nothing. If it's not going to kill you, there's nothing wrong with trying it out and seeing if you like it. If you don't like it, nobody's making you move forward and constantly do it. That's the whole thing here. And I know my buddy here is just trying to help me further along the point here. It's like, yeah, like, guys, read the story, enjoy the ride. Exactly. Yep, you're right. I mean, it is. I deal with that all the time. Pineapple pizza, it's like, yeah, you haven't had Hawaiian style pizza. It's like, what's Hawaiian style pizza? Well, you have, ham and pineapple on it. Ew, pineapple on a pizza. It's like, have you ever had it? And yes, I have had Hawaiian style pizza. It is okay. Pineapple does not destroy the taste of pizza. Another pizza that I thought that I was just going. There's two other pizzas that I thought I was going to hate, but I come to like it. One was barbecue chicken pizza, because I'm up here like barbecue sauce instead of regular pizza sauce. Nah, not going to work, but it does. And then the other one is ranch buffalo style pizza. Ranch and buffalo sauce mixed together on it with chicken, and it's kind of like, it's like if you have buffalo chicken wings, it's like in pizza form. At first I was like, that's not going to work, but after you had it and experienced it, it's like, that's a different taste here. But you have to have that mind for adventure. You have to have that, let me try it once before I can make up my own mind on this. I could look at it and smell it and be like, nah, this is not for me. But until you actually taste it, you don't know. You honestly don't know. It's like, Oh, my kid doesn't like pickles. It's like, have he ever ate a pickle? No. Then how you don't know if they don't like it? It is what it is. Heck, pineapple made it better. Yeah. Because again, ham on pizza by itself is not all that great, but pineapple with the ham and the texture is like, yeah, it makes it, good. Ew, adventure. Who wants that? Nah, nah. It's like you remember our real conversation here, Green Lantern. The real conversation is achoo, exposition, achoo. I don't want backstory, achoo. I can't stand that. Achoo. Give me action. Every story can't have action from beginning to end. People need to know why people are doing stuff. You know, story can't just be like person wake up in the morning, grabs a gun, goes about their merry way. As they see people, they just kill them for no reason. And at the very end, the character kills what we perceive as the big boss, and he walks off happily ever after. We want to be up here. It's like, why did he do any of this stuff? What's the backstory? What did this person do that was so wrong to him that he feels that he had to kill him? That's what exposition is for. And you could take that same mentality into trying new stuff here. It's like, sometimes you're going to get bored with the same old, same old. I mean, it is what it is here. And I kind of feel that nowadays with comic book collecting to a certain degree. One of the reasons why I'm up here more along the lines doing more women-led titles than other books, because it is what it is. It's like most comic books to me seems rather the same, unless you go into like the more independent stuff, which is trying a little bit different things, but it even gets muddy there. It's like, horror books seems like horror books, and everybody's trying to do a carbon copy of the same thing here. And when you do come across somebody that's doing something different, you try it and then you kind of find like something's not right about it. And you kind of like be like, well, I gave it a try. I sort of like it, but I'm not certain if I'm going to stay with it here. And that's where, like I said, shows like this is where you have creators like myself. You come in and you tell like, hey, I read this, but I don't understand why you're doing this. And if they're not willing to engage you and talk to you and take feedback and, talk to you about where they're going with their process, then there's a problem there, that they're not really developing a world for you. And that's one of the things about this industry that I wish we would get back to doing here. Instead of telling a single story, develop a universe, develop a plethora of different alternatives from that one story, where it's just not a one and done. Anybody could create a one shot, but not every creator could create a universe. It is what it is. Yep, a true story. Oh, mark your calendars for 5/5/2028. What is happening 5/5/28? Oh, the X-Men movie. The X-Men movie here. The new X-Men. I don't know. My feelings is the jury is out based upon the casting. I'm not going to say good, bad, or indifferent. The jury is out. I have no opinion. Just like how I started off this broadcast here, Mr. Green. I started out with this broadcast about how disappointed I was that they haven't dropped Lanterns as of yet, because this was supposed to have been the weekend that Lanterns dropped on HBO Max, and it still hasn't dropped as of yet. So I'm not certain if it's supposed to drop tonight or if it was supposed to drop tomorrow. Okay, it's on tomorrow. Okay. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm actually looking forward to have a clean slate, clean mind, watching it and absorbing it with no preconceived notions about where they're planning to go. I did that with a couple of series here already. And one of the things that I began to like about the streaming services, since Comcast is trying to make people pay extra for a Cartoon Network now, Oh, for those who don't know, Xfinity or Comcast Xfinity, they have moved Cartoon Network over to the sports packages here. So you have to pay more in order to get Cartoon Network now. So if you don't want, the ultimate sports package where you get like MLB and all these other channels, you lose Cartoon Network. So for me to see like some of the more popular Cartoon Network shows, like My Adventures with Superman, you have to have HBO Max and everything now. So unless you pay the extra money, it's no longer a part of just extended cable. Yeah, I know that's whack, but they did that a while back. But for those who like the classic cartoons, that's why I'm happy that MeTV Tunes are now in play, and they are on Comcast as well as regular broadcast television. So if you watch it on regular digital broadcast television, at least here in Chicago, I believe it's 26.7. So that's the channel that MeTV Tunes are on, where you can watch your Woody Woodpeckers, your Scooby Doos, your Speed Racers, your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Ghostbusters, and a whole bunch of others. But if you're looking for Cartoon Network, unless you get the ultimate sports package, you're done, son. We lost, and I was mad when we lost it here, because I was up here. I was like, man, come Saturday, I was like, watching a lot of this anime stuff that was coming on, the newer stuff that I probably wouldn't watch because I don't do the whole Crunchyroll type stuff. It is what it is here. But like I said, like the topic says, nothing new, nothing changed. So nothing new about that. They always make changes to Comcast always makes changes to which channels that they offer and which ones that they're not. And you have to be careful with local channels, because they do remove local channels based upon contract agreements here, because there have been several times that they're up here threatening to remove channels, like here in Chicago, like Channel 9 WGN. They threatened to remove that because they couldn't get contractual obligations here. I think one time they threatened to get rid of 32, which is Fox. So it's kind of like one of those things, like you just got to be careful. You never know what's going on behind the, in the background and everything with agreements and contracts and everything for telecommunication or broadcast television is concerned here. But saying all that to say, it's all fits into the topic. There's nothing new and nothing really changed here. But, it really is one of those moments in time when you really pick your head up and start looking around and asking what's really new out there that's going on here. It's like I kind of get tired of the same arguments about, my favorite comic book is like my favorite comic book lost value. It's like, well, if you're more into the modern aspects of comics, yeah, it went down in value. And even a lot of the golden age stuff had gone down in values, but it's a roller coaster ride. The further that book has been put out, the better chances that it has to go up in value as the number of available issues are going down. So if you're looking for something that is, what would be considered rare, and like I say, I'm putting rare in quotation marks, the value would go up. But, if you're up here complaining about, oh, my Amazing Spider-Man 300 lost $200 and it was like $1,500 and went down to $1,300, I'm just going to look at you strange, because there's tens of thousands of Amazing Spider-Man 300, not including all of the facsimiles and reprints. That book is not supposed to be the value that it is right now. But like I said, modern speculation, it is what it is. I don't knock it here. Yeah, it's like if you're trying to get comics to get money or to get value out of it, I feel like it's a losing battle. It is. Well, put it this way. People can make money off of comic books if they know how to flip books. But to be a flipper in this day and age is very, very tough, and you have to be on top of everything, and that bubble can burst at any given time, especially on speculated books. That's one of the reasons why, modern speculation is the way that it is as of right now. People will look at, the next big thing and be like, I'm going to buy like 20 of these here and I'm going to flip them to make my money. You get those 20 bucks, but because you missed that time frame before that bubble pops or before it starts dropping, your time and opportunity has lost, and now you're going to have to be in it for the long haul. And when I say the long haul, it's like, if you miss that opportunity to sell it off to make that big bank right up here within like the next couple of months, guess what? You're probably going to have to hold on to it for a couple of years, and even then, there's no guarantee that you're going to get a return on investment. It is what it is. And I guess the Lane said it best. It's like comic books is not stock. It's not really investment in that aspect here. You can't play stock market with comic books in that aspect. Because again, the book is only as valuable as the person who collects it or buys into it. Who would to say that the X-Men #1 from 1963 that I got, that's a 115, is still worth the value that I paid for it, let alone the value that most of these price guys are telling me that it's worth now. We just don't know. Yeah, I just blink at them for that. Yeah. Not stock at all, but that's what they made. That's what they made this current market here, especially with all these variant covers and everything to that magnitude. It's just like, a 1 in 200, a 1 in 500, a 1 in 1,000 cover. It's rare. It's rare as far as the cover is concerned, but it's still a #1. If I added up all the #1s that they put out there, it's still a #1 of that series. So you're not missing out on only an issue #1. Back in the day, if you miss out on #1, you kind of like, man, how many did they actually print out? Now they're up here like, we got a 1 per store and a one per store and one per comic books, con and all this other stuff. It's like you diluting the bigger picture with collectability based upon covers to make it more valuable before its time. It's still an issue 1 or an issue 20 or an issue whatever. You better hope that it's a key issue. If it's not a key issue, then you really better hope that that artist is really, 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 really popular and really, 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 really valuable later on in life. It's just that simple. It's one of those things where I don't really talk bad about those who want to speculate, because it takes a lot of effort, a lot of knowledge, and you got to do your homework. So I don't knock them. That's what they have fun doing. I never knock people for having fun and stuff that they enjoy. But what I don't like about modern speculation is the fact of the complaints they have when their speculation is wrong. It's rolling the dice. You made this hobby into a stock market light in that aspect. Back in the day, it's like, if I liked X-Men and I know a couple of my other friends don't like X-Men, it's my job. It was part of my job to get them. It's like, hey, try X-Men out here, and vice versa. If they like Transformers, they have me to try to read Transformers, see if I like it. And we talk, try to get one another into it, because that's just the way that the nature of it is. Nowadays, nobody talks about the stories. Everybody want to talk about, oh yeah, have you seen that next Peach Momoko cover? Have you seen that new Jenny Frison cover? Have you seen that new David Nakayama cover? For damn the story, we just want to talk about the covers. How that cover looks so nice, and how fire it is. That's why, modern spec to me is taking comics in the wrong direction. We need to get back to talking about the stories and who's really writing good stuff and the validity of it. And to be quite honest here, when we have those conversations, We need to start having those conversations with people younger than we are. Because the majority of the people who are the major comic book collectors now are over the age of 21. We need to talk to the younger generations to understand why they like these manga books. And I consider manga the same as comics here. We need to understand why they're picking up said manga titles and why they like them. We as creators need to pay more attention to that too. Because if we're not writing the stories that these younger generations like, we kind of dead in the water. We're writing to a crowd that may not care. And as we get older, our audience also gets older. And they may not be able to buy like they used to. When you truly think about it, one health scare could change a course of somebody still buying, especially if they're of our ilk here, Green Lantern. One health issue could be the determination of, oh, I could buy $2,000 worth of comics a month to I can't buy any. I gotta sell off my collection because I got bills to pay. So you have to be thinking about your audience, is always expanding your audience and expanding your audience to the younger generation and writing stories that may appeal to them and not just to yourself. Now, granted, most of us writers, we're selfish. We just like writing stories. We're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to come up with a story for like 16-year-olds. No, we're going to be more along the lines. We're going to write a story that is great that people want to read it. But we have to take in consideration of that audience. If we're gunning for like that 13 to 16-year-old audience, we have to think in that direction here. We don't write down to it. We just have to make certain that those stories make sense to them. It is what it is here. And the popular artist thing is not much of a thing anymore. That was said for years. Your audience might shrink. He's agreeing, but I haven't been really like keeping up with the chat the way that I needed to be. But that's kind of like the thing. But the more I look at what other popular YouTubers are saying and doing and putting out there, the more I'm seeing that nothing is really changed and nothing is really new. Everybody's up here saying, pretty much saying the same thing. It's like when the next brand new thing comes out, it's like, it ain't really rare. It's not rare anymore. Nothing is really rare. That's like, well, that has never changed. It's, this ain't really new. It's like we had something like this before and everybody just hates how things are. It's like, why are people talking about what they like? I mean, yeah, I'm reading this. It's like for those who keep up with what we do on Comic Book Spectrum, I've been reviewing Planet She-Hulk. And Planet She-Hulk is, like I said, it's like I consider it kind of like a Me Too, not as the same as a Me Too movie, but it's just like, oh, they making She-Hulk have a similar story to her cousin the Hulk, and they put Planet on top of it and hoping that people will look at it as like this is new and it's fresh. It's like, this is not going very well. This is not setting very well with those who are fans of the character and fans of good story. The story is flimsy because I'm up here. The first thing that happened in the story, even in the first issue, they buried one of the Hulk sons. So if you ever read Planet Hulk and everything, Hulk, I believe, had like 3 sons. One of them died, and him and Jennifer went to the planet where he died on and everything. They buried him. Hulk gave the decree that there's going to be 5 days worth of mourning before anybody else can go into any type of war or conflict can break out here. Instead of letting Jennifer come back to Earth, he convinced Jennifer, it's like, here, I need for you to stay for you can, manage these 5 days here because I have something to do, take care of in these 5 days. I need for you to keep the peace and I will be back. Well, he never came back in 5 days. So she's stuck there. And now all hell is breaking loose. I was like, that's a flimsy story because Hulk would not just be like, oh yeah, I'll be back in 5 days. You have my word. And there's no inkling from him whatsoever. I mean, somebody would have been thrown to that planet and be like, oh yeah, I have a message for Jennifer. It's like, I'm being held up. It's like, could you hold the fort for a couple of days or something? Nothing. So the rest of the story pans out. It's like, she's supposed to be helping this one king, doing this one king is going off his rocker and all this other stuff. And he's upset because his fiance got killed in front of him. And it is alleged, it's like, who to say that another faction killed her? Because everything seems so staged and everything. And it was just like one thing leads to another. And just like Jennifer just not acting like Jennifer. It's kind of like, okay, maybe you just wrote a Planet She-Hulk story, a Planet Hulk story, and just threw She-Hulk in as the main character, and we just have to go along with it. It is what it is here. Yeah, it ain't new to us. I get it. But those type of stories don't really appeal to a person like me when we really dive into it. Because we kind of like start picking it apart, and it was like, this doesn't make sense for what has already been established with the character. And especially with several characters. Like, why would Jennifer back down to anybody when it's like, oh yeah, we need to interrogate him because of due process? The king was like, you fight for me. You're here because you're a Hulk and we do this, that, and the other. So are you saying that you're not? Because if you're not, you are now an enemy of the state. And it's like, Jennifer would not back down at that point. That's not her nature, but she did. And then she goes out and has a hissy fit a little bit later to let out her frustration and rage out on a mountain and everything. And then she gets into like a sparring match with somebody that she knows. I don't know if they're like, that doesn't seem like Jennifer. Jennifer is too smart for that. That might work for Bruce, but that doesn't work for Jennifer. Jennifer is too smart. She would have used her words to get her way. But I have to go with the ride. That was one of the things that I learned, surprisingly enough, from Kelly Sue D. McCormick when I was reading Bitch Planet way back when. Sometimes you have to go on that ride to understand the full story and why people act the way that they act. Just like the whole thing with the original run of Bitch Planet. My major question to her was, what caused everything to change in this world to be that way? Because that's the only thing that didn't make any sense. With some of the rules and some of the customs that was being put out there in Bitch Planet, and why some of the women were being considered non-compliant, did not make any sense to me because I didn't know what changed in that world. And she was like, well, I could tell you, but then the story would not work for you. You have to go on that ride. And I went on the ride and I was like, okay, I never got an answer to my question 100%, but I understood why the characters sort of were the way that they were because I went on the ride. Going back to, how do you know you like something until you try it? I tried that series and I was like, it's okay. I'm not certain. And I was like, I'm not certain how this is being made, but maybe if I get, a little bit more insight, it'll work. And then surprisingly enough, back in the day where everybody was on Twitter and not as an X, I made a comment and lo and behold, she replied back. Now, I thought at first when she replied, she thought I was a troll. It's like, and then when she realized I wasn't a troll, she was like, oh, this is how you're supposed to, look at it from this standpoint. She gave me the way to look at it. And once I started looking at it that way, it started to make sense to me. I wasn't up here being argumentative. I was just up here like, what changed. Help me understand the world that you create. That's what creators are supposed to do. She helped me understand the world that she created. And from there, I was able to understand the story and what was going on and was able to go along on the ride. And from there, I was able to enjoy the ride from there. Now, if she did do that, I probably would have ended up hating the series. Probably loathing it because I would have never understood why things are going on the way that it is. This is why exposition is so important and understanding how exposition works. And sometimes you just have to ask the creators, like, hey, what are you trying to go for right now? And this also goes back to the point that I also make too. It's like sometimes we need editors. We need strong editors back in comics. Because sometimes, people go off the deep end with their stories and just throw people for a loop and just things just doesn't make sense anymore. But those day and ages are gone here, where continuity doesn't make any sense between creative teams and everything to that magnitude. And it's sad, but it's true. I kind of wish we were back in those days here, where we could say that, where you had editors to say, it's like, hey, this character would not normally do something like that here. And when they did, it was this type of special situation. You did not set up that situation in said story. So give us a reason why that character would do something like that. People, I'm not saying that we don't have editors nowadays that still, correct the grammar, proofreads the stuff and everything. I mean, we see it now. We still got comics that has errors across the board. Not every editor is going to catch every last, missed period and dotted I. However, good editors make certain the story makes sense. And that's what we're missing today. That's just my critique here. I'm not saying all modern stories are bad. It just seems like the better stories have somebody really paying attention and taking extra care, a little bit more extra care to it. And they pay attention to the story flow. Story flow makes a major difference, especially in comic medium. But, I said enough here, and it looks like I'm not getting any. It's a marketing ploy. Maybe. I know back then, Bitch Player, I don't think it was a marketing ploy. I think it was, to be quite honest, part of it was low key making a statement. But the other portion about why Image published it the way that it did, there was an underlying story behind it. It's just that, to me, that universe was just not completely set up the way that most readers who are not of that same mindset for the statement she was making could understand it initially. Yeah. The Planet She-Hulk, I believe it was a marketing tool, because when I did the review for it, Cliff asked me if I read World War She-Hulk. I was like, don't bring that story up here. I already reviewed it, and to me, some stories in Marvel are seeing its darkest days now. Not to say that stuff is bad. I'm saying it more along the lines here is that they making things more marketable for those who are in the collectible aspect of it, and not for those who want good literature. And that's the problem. Surprisingly enough, comics is still literature. It's not just words and pictures. It's not a storybook. Well, storybooks are literature too, so it's literature. When it comes down to it, it is literature. You have to make certain that you're putting out the best story possible. When you're focusing more on collectability based upon covers and whatever other gimmick that you could come up with, where your marketing department is focusing more on collectability than actual storytelling, you have these lows and drops that doesn't make any sense, such as World War She-Hulk. They didn't need to do World War She-Hulk. I believe they had a better success with Hulk Volume 3 when Jennifer went gray and she had PTSD. And the gray version of her was not letting her off the hook and forcing her to deal with the shit that she had to deal with. Now, what I didn't like is how they cut off Volume 3 of Hulk and then did like the last 5 issues as Legacy She-Hulk, dealing with the leader, and the leader dealing with her mortality again. And the way that the leader is up here saying, kind of proved that she was kind of immortal. But that's a whole nother ball of wax here. But that's going back at least 20 years. That's going back about 20 years. But what they're doing now is just like, cut, copy, paste. If it doesn't work, Control Alt Delete. They reset. It's just that here. Oh, there's Tom Sawyer. Yep. Oh, which show are you at in Orlando here, Tom? Are you at a comic book show or are you just vacationing? No, I'm not in Florida. I'm actually in Chicago. Here. So I've been actually at this for about an hour here. So you came in the tail end of the conversation about how nothing's new and nothing has changed here. I mean, we covered everything from like crowdfunding to diversity in books and about, making certain that you hit your audience. And now we're talking about how everything now is almost getting to a point where it's cut, copy, paste. And if it doesn't work, Control Alt Delete, we just got to reset it. There's no adherence to legacy anymore. Between creative teams. A new creative team will come in. It's like, I want my own sandbox instead of using the toys that are already there. We want full control over this, but you have all this stuff that you can make better stories with. But we want our own thing. We want our own sandbox. But that big sandbox over there has everything that you need in it. You can throw it away. It's like, why are you going to do that? People like what they like. You don't need to recreate the wheel. That's part of the problem that we're seeing here. Reason why we were brought up with some of the stuff that I was seeing in the Planet She-Hulk that I'm reading right now, that I'm reviewing on Comic Book Spectrum, and one of the reasons why I just didn't care too much for World War She-Hulk. I mean, it is what it is here. But hopefully, Tom, you're having a great time in Orlando. But outside of that, I wish things were better. And I really need to get a whole bunch of newer books here, start going to other shows and, try to track down smaller press books that I actually like now and start talking about them and start hyping them up here. Kind of diversity related. I hate that they canceled Blade instead of having a Ghostwriter movie, barely advertising Ironheart, and cancel the Rhodey show and shafted Sam Wilson by bringing back Steve. A lot of that. I'm kind of glad that you brought a lot of that stuff up here, because again, one of the things that I hate, which goes against popular opinion, is people's lack of understanding about how mantles are passed. Sam is technically Captain America. Steve gave him the mantle. Steve saw that what he was and what he represents is not what this current generation understands and know. he saw that Sam could reach them a lot better than he could. But the old heads is like, no, I want my Steve Rogers. I gotta have Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers is my Cap. Your Cap just passed the mantle to a man that is capable. And you don't accept that? What type of fan are you? That's the question that I have for Captain America fans, especially these stubborn ones. Your guy handpicked Sam. It wasn't like Val Cooper, what Val Cooper did with Walker. That's a completely different story. It wasn't what Marvel did when they allowed Bucky to be Cap. And even Bucky as Cap was more of a nod to a possible passing of the mantle of somebody who has been with Steve, that understood what Steve represented. But still fans complained. Oh man, I could go on for days about that one. The Rhodey show, I'm not too understanding about the whole thing about War Machine. I mean, yeah, they talked about a War Machine show, but I wasn't too keen on why it got canceled. Ironheart, I just don't know why people just, in a way, people got so stuck on the comic book version of Ironheart and the fact that she was never truly a hero in the very beginning. And then they dialed the volume up to 10 about her arrogancy and made her unlikable on the television screen. That made Ironheart kind of hard to digest. Not that she's a bad character, but even with the failure of Ironheart, it also, a couple other things, it made Marvel not go in the direction of having a Young Avengers movie. They put the kibosh on Young Avengers, because that was the real reason why they was pushing Ironheart, Miss Marvel, and a couple other characters that they were about to get ready to bring out to do Young Avengers. The reason why they did Hawkeye with Kate Bishop, because Young Avengers was coming, but they could put the kibosh on it because, again, they just didn't. The older heads just didn't like, oh, this is not what we want. This is what, they're the loudest one complaining. And then the younger generation was like, man, it was okay. But, like they always say, the squeaky gears get the oil. So they gave the people who spoke the loudest the what they want here. It is what it is. Now, the other stuff that I can't speak to is like, I did not know that they were going to do another Blade movie. And yeah, the upcoming Ghost Rider stuff, it is what it is here. Yeah, Steve is not Cap. They never said that Steve is back as Cap. That's true. And Marvel canceled other shows too. Yeah, they did. That's the reason why the last Captain America movie proved why Steve picked him as Cap. Steve would have never been able to beat Thunderbolt Ross. Steve would have been able to beat Thunderbolt Ross as even a Red Hulk. It would have taken somebody like Sam to talk sense, to talk major sense into him. Steve would have been like, look, I got super soldier serum. We're just going to battle it out and this, that, and the other. And we're just going to have a bullshit ending as far as this fight is concerned to get you up under control. Sam's solution to that situation was the correct solution. Sam knew, it's like, I brought you here to this grove of cherry blossoms, because you got to think what's best, not only for the country, but for yourself and Betty. Is this what Betty would have wanted for you? Does Betty want you to go out like a villain? because it's still time to change course. You don't have to ruin, you don't have to ruin the family. That's something that Steve could have never done to Thunderbolt Ross. Never. Not to say that he couldn't have compassion for him, but Steve could not make that speech the way that Sam did and make it make sense. But that's what people fail to realize about the difference between Sam and Steve. Steve may have the heart of an underdog, but he doesn't have the mentality of one. He fights for the weak, the fight for the people that can't fight for themselves. So does Sam. Sam does it without Super Soldier, but Sam does it in such a way where it's more about people understanding the bigger picture. It takes somebody that has some, if I could say, psychological ability to understand their opponent enough to know specifically what they need, what they're trying to go for, and what they're trying to avoid. But again, people pan that last Captain America movie because it wasn't what they wanted at the very end. That last fight wasn't what they wanted. Yeah, I came to Orlando to tour. Oh, Full Sail. Oh, so you're well, I think they're still there. I think NXT is still there. So if you're at Full Sail University, 'cause I know Full Sail University, that's a university that deals with gaming, but they also have part of their studios there where NXT actually films out of. So yeah, that might be a good time to be had if you can have time to tour the place, probably catch a taping of NXT, and then do all the other big things in Orlando, Florida, like Universal Studios, Disney World, and all the other stuff here. Let's see, what say is it's turned out to be too expensive, so I just turned the campus trip into my own little vacation. Disney World today and Mario World tomorrow. Yep. Fans always complain. Yeah, that's the bad thing about it. Armor War wasn't coming. Yeah, they restructured everything, and they were doing less D+ shows here. Well, that's the thing. What people were calling D+ shows were not D+ shows. It wasn't what they wanted. Perfect example. Agatha All Along. Everybody calls it a D+ show, but it wasn't what anybody wanted. They didn't need to give Agatha her own show. And they really didn't need Agatha to have her own show to have Tommy. For those who don't know, Tommy, we're talking about one of Wanda's twins, to show up. It's like you don't need Agatha to prolong the whole story of Scarlet Witch. You could have did that without doing Agatha All Along. It is what it is here. And the simple fact that Agatha admitted that the witch's role was fictitious, and for Tommy to be able to do what he did to make it real, that's some scary stuff. I'm sorry. But, having Agatha there to kind of be like the vehicle to tell that story was just not needed. Nah, Youngest Avengers is still kind of coming. No, they put the kibosh on it. Young Avengers it's not, if it's coming, it's not going to be anytime soon. It's going to be a couple more phases before we even get to smell Young Avengers again. They may debut in Secret Wars. Maybe. Yeah, I think they still want to have Young Avengers take over, but now that Disney has Fox, they're going to kind of maximize X-Men first before touching Avengers. Probably so. Actually, most definitely so, because they're going to need Avengers to deal with Doom. I always go back to the Marvels, which is one of the movies that most people don't talk about, because why? Captain Marvel was so much of a bust for a lot of people. So those who did see the Marvels movie kind of missed out on where they're going to be going, could go with the X-Men movie, because they already kind of showed us who Binary is going to be. And we don't know whether or not that the universe that Monica landed in is an alternate universe X-Men or not. Is it really MCU X-Men, or is it alternate universe? We just don't know yet. Yeah, Blade got canceled. Blade got canned. Maybe may appear in Doomsday or Secret War. Probably so. Well, he did appear in the last Deadpool movie. So I don't put it past them. There still might be hope here. Yeah, Sam did negotiate with people a lot, and people and like I said, people who don't like story and I just want action would hate that type of stuff. But that's reality. That's reality. The modern day soldier is not just like, oh, I just going to go fisticuffs. I'm going to go heads up with the Hulk and win. Yeah, you go ahead and do that and see how that comes out. How that comes out here. And especially a person like Sam that has no superpowers whatsoever. None. Zero. See how that comes out. Matter of fact, let's go back to, what was it? Incredible Hulk. How that happened with Blonsky. Blonsky went heads up to the Hulk with super soldier serum. And what ended up happening? He got decimated. That's not going to work. That's not going to work here. Yeah, D plus. Oh, you mean Disney Plus? Okay. No, not the grade. Okay. It was kind of, it was kind of cool as far as how they revealed a lot of different things that was going on with the witches. That was the thing, how they was revealing the magical side of MCU was kind of cool. But they really didn't need Agatha to be like kind of like the thing. It's like, yes, you do. Yeah, people didn't watch the Marvels. Yeah. That's why I kind of figured people missed out on what I caught in the Marvels dealing with Monica. Because remember, Monica shows up and then she sees her mom, and mom reveals herself as Binary. I was like, "Ooh, this is going to be interesting about how they do it." A turnabout and play on the Marvel's lore, which is really, really interesting. And like I said, Marvel is taking a lot of liberties here. You remember what they said happened to him after he got kicked into that tree? After talking all that mess to Bruce. He talked all that mess to Bruce. Bruce is like, not even a real kick, just like pushed him. pushed him several hundred yards into a tree. And they said like all his bones and stuff were just about almost atomized. If it wasn't for the fact that they used that tainted super soldier serum, he would have been dead. Any other type of soldier, dead. DOA, dead on arrival when he hit that tree. Oh, so they're going to show us what actually happened to Vision, which is kind of cool. That could be cool in October. Yeah, I mean, it fits. You know, the reason why I say it's like they're taking some liberties is because it does fit. I mean, the way that they looked at the Marvels is like this is the lore of Captain Marvel as a whole here, and they're not going all the way back to Marvel. They're going to use whatever is related to Carol. Carol was Miss Marvel in the X-Men universe. She did become binary. So in this alternate version of this, Monica's mom was the one that eventually got the binary powers. It works. It kind of works, but like I said, they did take some liberties on telling the stories here. And I have to say all he was yeeted into the tree. He was yeeted into the tree. Only thing I'm thinking about now is All thing I'm thinking about is Stink Me right now. Oh, you talking all that good shit a minute ago. What did that get you kicked dead into the tree? That's what I was thinking in that moment. Yeah, Vision Trust is going to have Ultron. I feel like they're underutilizing in Age of Ultron. I am very much hoping that Vision Quest is a way to bring back Ultron so that he could work with Doom. I don't know. I don't know about that. Ultron would be interesting. Ultron would be interesting if they bring back Jokesta. They have to bring in Jokesta. And for those who read Avengers, that you would know who I'm represent who I'm talking about when I talk about Jocasta, the other creation of Ultron, and that would be somewhat interesting here. Kick your chest. No, he's not working with Doom. No, but no, that's what he would want here. The variant looks like her mom. Okay. But yeah, that's the whole thing. It's like that would be interesting because like if they did Vision Quest and everything to bring back Ultron, I would say the only way Ultron comes back is because Vision goes out and he finds that Ultron eventually created Jocasta before they destroyed him. And that means that Ultron has a vehicle to come back into a being outside of him. But yeah. It's like, oh, if they did bring her origin would be different. Yeah, she wouldn't be the friendly version, the friendly construct that was confused based upon what she was told about the Vision and everything. She could have been like she could be like really 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 evil and have to be turned be persuaded here. So watch the trailer. Yeah, nope, nope, nope. Watch the trailer. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be that way. I just say throwing it out there. It's like it could be something here. Yeah, I remember rumors about again saying Doom would team up with Ultron, Null, and King Thanos from another universe. I'm hoping that Steve Rogers is Captain Hydra. That storyline is very, very interesting for those who actually read that version of Steve Rogers Captain America. For those who actually read the books for the Hell Hydra moment and read it after that first issue, it was a nice little ride to go on to understand the mentality of why it could have happened. And it gave me a different picture of Hydra because Hydra, at least that arm of Hydra, wasn't really evil. It was nothing more than, if I could say, a rehashing of McCarthyism back in the day. And being that he was around his mom as a little bitty kid and growing up that way, and that was the way that his mom had friends and stuff to that magnitude, and they all believed in that. it kind of made sense. Now, does that go against his all-American, persona that was done, if I could say 60, 70 plus years prior? Yeah, but it made for an interesting story about his childhood. And it also would have made it more solidified about his stance about patriotism and why he stood behind the old school red, white, and blue, and not go full hydrant into another branch. But it is what it is. I think it is Captain Hydra in that trailer. Yeah. But that's going to be interesting nonetheless. And like everybody wants to speculate on these movies, but I do have to watch. I still gotta watch Vision Quest. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna watch that trailer. I'm gonna watch that trailer hopefully soon here. But it is what it is. I already seen the Doomsday trailer. That one I'm not worried about. What, there's another one? Okay. See, folks, you could tell I'm not a major moviegoer. I'm not a big moviegoer. It's like I catch stuff on streaming, but I'm not one of those ones. It's like I gotta go to a theater to see it because I don't like the theater experience anymore. Nah, it's not. It's not. It's more than that. It's more than that. It's like everybody says, like, well, you just have to pause every 4 to 5 seconds. It's more than that. At the few times that I did get hit with copyright violations here, you have to do something in a way to teach someone something about what's going on, or show or explain something that had happened here. And you can't really do true reaction videos anymore on YouTube because of that new guideline here. Because I actually got caught a couple of times for copyright violations for community standards, and one of the things that they made me to do is to go through this one course just to verify what you can do, what you can't do, this, that, the other. It's not, pausing every 5 seconds when it count here. You have to give like some type of instruction, or be able to explain what's really going on, or give some type of idea what's really going on behind the scenes here. That was one of the reasons why we stopped reacting to cartoons on Comic Book Spectrum, because we used to go out there and watch these like old Plastic Mans and old Plastic Man cartoons and Fang Face and all of these cartoons that people forgot from back in the days, and we would react to it. We would teach people different things that were going on, and we were showing people, where people like Jack Kirby and Alex Toth was doing like the designs and all the different stuff, and what was influenced by them and all this other stuff, until I think it was it was Cops Fighting Crime in the Future Time that really caused us to have problems, because they kind of shut off our broadcast. They kind of shut off our broadcast on YouTube, because Warner Brothers was saying, nope, we ain't having that. And then they looked at it and it's like, yeah, you're not doing enough talking to explain what was going on, what was different, and breaking down the scenes properly here. Yeah, stupid YouTube. Yep. And Wildcats. Yeah. Wildcats was another one. That was another one here. But usually before, YouTube used to give us a lot more latitude here, because we did a whole series. We did on Kick Heart. Myself and another person that I know of, we actually did commentary about Kick Heart, about how IG Productions did Kick Heart, and what was missed from the Cartoon Network viewing of it versus what I had on Blu-ray and DVD. And like I said, I did all the disclaimers and all the other stuff and gave them rights and privileges and all this other stuff that they need to know. And we did our commentary. No problem. It wasn't until Warner Brothers came in and said, nope, you can't do this with Cops. And when we say Cops, we're talking about the cartoon series Cops Fighting Crime in a Future Time with BP Vest and Big Boy Capri and all of those characters. But no, when I watched those trailers, I have to do it outside. And then if I do do a trailer reaction, I have to break it up into parts and everything and bring it up temporarily here. Unless it's a trailer that I did, and I do trailers for if I do crowdfunding, which I haven't done in a couple of years. But I do trailers in that aspect here. But if it's something that I haven't done, it is what it is. No, you broke this stream with Ultra Force. And I'll never forgive you for that one. Yes, people who are out there watching. Green Lantern is like, no, we're gonna have you to watch Ultra Force, the first couple of episodes of Ultra Force. I swear, some things just don't hold up, and some things should have never been made. Ultra Force was one of them. Wildcats was okay. Ultra Force was like, no, no, not again. No. Like, yeah, see, I'll never forgive you for Ultra Force. Wildcats, okay. You know, it has its flaws. Wildcats has its flaws, but it's nowhere near Ultra Force bad. Ultra Force was bad. That show did not hold up. Wildcats is like, yeah, that was a 90s cartoon. It kind of tried to sort of parallel to the comic books. It was kind of like, you know, Image's answer to X-Men. But Ultra Force, what was Malibu thinking? What were they thinking? What were they thinking? Oh my goodness. That was just bad. Very, 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 very bad. But going back to say all of this, it's like it's still nothing new and still nothing has changed since then. Yeah, it does not hold up to time. Oh my goodness. I have never watched a show where you kind of up here be like, you kind of want to root for the villain more for the heroes. Hard case is like, oh, I got PSTD. I cannot be on another team. I cannot be on another team because I fear that my team is going to get killed. Well, you didn't do nothing that truly helped them in the first place. I can't be a team player because my original team is dead and I can't go through that anymore. Action stuff. I was rooting for the episode. It's like I was rooting for the villain because it's like the villain is like, yeah, go ahead and kill them. It would end the series and we could go ahead and do something else. But yeah, Ultra Force is bad. It didn't hold up then and it doesn't hold up at all today. Not at all. Not at all here. But that was some watching here. Yeah, that guy suck and the villain suck too with the name like Enemy. I forgot what the name was. It was a common name and it just did not bring any type of scare to your mind here. Oh my goodness. It's like everybody wanted to talk bad about Wildcats. Everybody wanted to talk bad about Gen 13, but Ultra Force, nah. Mm-mm. Gen 13 made sense. It was just not made for kids. Gen 13 was not made for kids. Wildcats has its problems, but Ultra Force, that's like, I believe Malibu was like, yeah, give us a licensing agreement. We'll let you use the characters. Y'all could do whatever y'all want. It doesn't have to make sense. We just want the check. We just want the paycheck. It was 90s cheese. It was 90s extreme, extreme. That's what it really was. 90s extreme. Oh, I'm your favorite Captain America now. It is. This is just weird. Me being Captain America, that doesn't say much. That doesn't say much. I'll feel sorry for America at that point. Don't bring up Prime. Don't bring up Prime. It's like the fact that the dad was like, well, growing boys are going to be growing boys. But he's being disrespectful. This, that, blah, 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 blah. It's like, this kid could not sneeze because if he sneezed and snot came out, it was a good possibility that he was going to turn to Prime. It just doesn't make any sense. You strike me more as a Reed Richards type. No, because I'm not going to be one of those ones like, oh, we're about to go into the negative zone. We can't go into the negative zone. You're going to let a nihilist out, but we need to investigate this star over here. We just deal with a nihilist later. I'm not that type of person. No, I'm not Reed Richards type. That's something that Reed Richards actually did in the books. Oh, we got to go investigate something way over there. It's like, but we can't go into the negative zone because if we open up a portal to the negative zone for that long, a nihilist is going to get out. Reed Richards' response is like, we'll deal with that later, but it's more important for us to get this data over here. You're going to let out one of the more powerful villains out of the negative zone just for you could get some data that could be used a little bit later. It'd be like, oh, a nihilist is an afterthought to me. We could deal with him later. Nah. People just go to suffer because you just got to go do some type of investigation. Nah. Oh my goodness. Don't remind me the third person stuff aspect of that here. Of course, he was an awful hero. He was overly testosterone filled. He was the proverbial 13-year-old ultra masculine character that was extreme. So he was like some like 40-year-old guy's thing, idea of what 13-year-old males would think is masculine. I'm super swole. I could get any woman that I want, and this, that, and the other. I can make any decision, and everything I have to do is smash somebody and punch somebody in the face. Not good hero. No depth to his hero. No, to his heroism. None. Zero. It showed even as comic. The one character that did not show up in Ultra Force, and I believe she might have came too late before Ultra Force, was Siren. Siren was a little bit interesting, but outside that, it was. Billy Bastard comes up to Prime and like, you can't see me. And it's like, oh yeah, what makes you so much better than me? I have access to the wisdom of Solomon if I actually wanted to use it. But no, I'm a 13-year-old just like yourself. I have better couth than you. Yeah, the zombie dude. Yeah, it wasn't just like he could talk to dead people. He could track people. He could track people by weirdness. It's like, I believe it's like he was able to track people on the ground based upon dead skin cells that hit or something to that magnitude. At least in the books, it was something like that. I mean, he had some very powerful powers. It was just not used creatively enough, and it wasn't cool. It was just extreme. It was like extreme, but it wasn't cool. Yeah, and a car. I know it was in a kid's cartoon. But again, I just don't want to go into history, now and then, because it's like everybody up here talking about, well, for a kid's cartoon, if I went back into Elaine's Wayback Machine and looked at the history of cartoons, when have cartoons ever been 100% for kids? Just like with comic books, when have comic books been 100% for kids? That is a modern concept that came after the seduction of the innocent. I'm just saying, you know, if you do your history, do your homework, and read Seduction of the Innocent and the whole court cases that came out, and the whole thing about the comics code and all this other stuff here. You have people back then with their pennies in a bunch, about, oh, all of this imagery, all of this storytelling is affecting the kids because comics is a kids medium, cartoons is a kids medium. Since when? Cartoons were used as intermission in between movies, actual full-length films. It was meant to entertain the masses, not just kids. Comics was quick entertainment for both adults and kids. It wasn't solely for kids. However, because more and more people were allowing younger people to read this stuff, people had their pennies in a bunch and made the assertion that this is for kids. And because they made that assertion, that tradition moved on and flowed through the years. Now, granted, there's certain things that we as adults should not allow kids to engage, to watch, to become knowledgeable about. That's the argument that I agree with. But to say that the medium is that way is incorrect. We as adults need to take responsibility and take accountability in that aspect here. We should have more control over what they have knowledge over and come into contact with. But again, over the years, we've gotten more and more lazy. And that flow into, the cartoons and the comics now flow into video games and other mediums as well. All because parents gotten away from being a vital part of their kids' lives and having more impact on what they watch and everything, and watching things together. They're up here, it's like, oh, here's a tablet, go watch this, having no idea what's in there. And then when they get that shock and awe to find out that the kid knows about X, Y, and Z, now they're ready to come out with their pitchforks and their torches as if they're going after Frankenstein and be like, government protect us, government protect us. It's like, no, you should have took more time with that child and be like, hey, you can't watch this. Or, hey, if you're going to watch this, you have to watch it with me because I have to make certain that you understand and know why this is not good and why this is bad, and understand what you're watching here. But it is what it is. Ultra Force 97. Yep. Even still show. Yep. They show on Saturday mornings and weekdays. Yep. It was very weird for a cartoon show. It was so weird that it was so extreme that they got over masculinity, sexualization. I mean, I could go for days about all the stuff that were quote unquote bad for back then in the 1990s that skirt the undertones of censors. But yet Cyber 6 got canceled. And for those who don't know, look up Cyber 6. It is a very good show from Australia. But the reason why Cyber 6 got canned is because it dealt with androgyny. They had one character, the main character, Cyber 6, who during the day goes by the name of Adrian. Now, as Adrian, the main character dresses up, presents themselves as a male. But when they get into their alter persona as Cyber Six, they're female. And people had a major problem with that. It's like parents group wrote in this, that, and the other. And yes, Cyber Six was a Saturday morning cartoon show. They didn't make a full season when parents got to notice all of that here. Even still, yep. And there's Aaron. So Aaron is here. You kind of missed most of the festivities here, Aaron, because now we're talking about either bad cartoon shows or shows that got canceled because of parents groups and other things that had happened, especially in the 90s here. We talked about how bad Ultra Force was and how Ultra Force got past censors, but Cyber Six didn't. Cyber Six, I believe Fox Kids only showed, I think, maybe at best 6 episodes before it got canned. However, in Australia, it ran for 3 seasons. If my memory serves me correct, it was either 2 or 3 seasons. But here in the States, we only got past 6. So it is what it is here. I had Billy McFly, the comic book guy, over. And, oh, cool. You traded. Y'all went to that back room, and in his back room, he cracked his knuckles like this. It's like, what are you buying? What are you selling? For those who knows the Resident Evil franchise, that was from Resident Evil 4, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I mean, they made it into a comic book series. Yep, but it was a television cartoon series, Cyber Six. Yeah, he was in my back room, baby. In that back room making those deals. Aaron's like, don't make me go ahead and get Joey Bats. Joey Bats normally makes certain that all my deals go through here. So, I could be nice or I could be very, very nice. No, but you went in threatening the guy. But it's just the mystique of that back room and how the deals are being made here. But we're about getting close to our 2-hour mark here. He's laughing. It's getting close to our 2-hour mark, so we're going to probably wrap it up here shortly. I'm just trying to think other TV shows that got canceled before its time. I know Attack of the Killer Tomatoes got canceled before its time in the same aspect here because of certain scenes. I'm trying to think what other shows got canceled. I know Cyber Six did because that was one that I was watching pretty closely, and then I forgot about it. Then somebody else brought it back to my attention. It's like, oh yeah, I barely remember that. And then when I watched it again, it's like, oh yeah, I remember all of this stuff. And then I did my research. It's like, wait, there was more episodes that we didn't get to see over here in the United States. It's like, what in the world is going on? And then it's like, yeah, censorship. And this was at the time where we had X-Men 95 going on, Spider-Man 90 in the 90s going on. We had the failed version of Silver Surfer that was actually good, but because it was Saturday mornings at a time spot that nobody watched, it failed. That was when we had the bad versions of Avengers on Fox. Yeah, Cyber Six was on during that time. And also G.I. Joe Sigma 6 was on during Saturday mornings as well. It was the first time that we got where Battle of the Planets, aka Gatchaman, became Eagle Riders. For people who don't know, by that time we were getting Power Rangers Turbo was on Saturday mornings. So yeah, it's going back to the 90s. That's going back to the 90s. We had things like Eat the Cat and Bobby's World before it became a weekday show. It was out there on Saturday mornings. So you had Eat the Cat, Bobby's World. You had Goosebumps that came on Saturday mornings as well. I just, Fox had a good cartoon lineup in the 90s. I mean, that was still during a time, on Saturdays where we still have Batman the animated series. Because Batman was on Fox, and then people would change the channel because Batman went off the air, and they will go over to WB to watch Superman, Legion of Superman, Superboy, and the Legion of Superheroes, the Zeta Project, Static, Real Ghostbusters, Pokemon on a Saturday. Tiny Toon Adventures was on Saturdays during that time. It was just a lot of stuff here. But yet we still have bad taste in our mouths from shows like Ultra Force. It is what it is. I mean, I barely remember. It's like people act like they barely remember things like Exo Squad or DIC version of G.I. Joe. Oh, people probably don't even remember Sergeant Stone and G.I. Joe Extreme coming on during that time. And I know that Green Lantern don't really remember the Masters of the Universe in 2000. The non-filmation one, the relaunch of Masters of the Universe that talked about more of the history, dealing with like the State Men and the history of Grayskull and everything to that magnitude, which was very, very good, but it was slept upon. It was slept upon because it wasn't what we grew up in the 80s, and people kind of panned it. But if you actually gave it a chance, it was like, wow, this is a lot of history that they're covering here. But that's another movie that I have to see. I have to see the newer version of Masters of the Universe here soon too. Nah, he was really good to me. Okay, cool. But on that note, we're going to call it an evening here. We're almost at the 2-hour mark. Unless you guys got more questions, more comments, we'll probably call it a day here, because it looks like the comments are slowing down here. I guess we had too much nostalgia here talking about the not so good in the 1990s, even though we talk about it in a good way. We're not up here trying to badmouth anybody, but we have funny nostalgia in that aspect here. It's like, yeah, we watched it as kids, we thought it was probably cool as a kid, but it just doesn't hold up well now. I mean, but then again, some of the cartoons during the 90s that held up well, we collected on DVD anyway, or DVD. I mean, I know people who have Batman the Animated Series on DVD and Blu-ray. I'm one of the few people that collected the X-Men DVD sets. The original DVD set. So I have that type of stuff. I think I still have some of the Tick, or at least the majority of the Tick on DVD somewhere. But I kind of wish I had Cyber 6. Those were like, kind of like one of those things that was rare. Like Archie's Weird Mysteries was another rare one that most people probably forgot about. But it is what it is here. So on that note, live life, grow, and be well. And we're out of here for another weekend here. To my East Coast folks, you're about to get ready to be in Sunday. So you're about to be in the future. For everybody else here in the United States, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. And we're out. Have a good Saturday, and see you next week right here from the Deso Small Press Publisher. Bye.